Stress-Free Cooking is brought to you by... From the sunny Mediterranean comes one of the world's finest olive oils for all your cooking needs. Pompeian extra virgin olive oil, classic Mediterranean, and extra light tasting. Pompeian makes everything better. From our table to yours, O-Pee-Chee Wines, fine wines and spirits from around the world since 1913. Cutco, the world's finest cutlery. Melissa's, the freshest ideas in produce. And Sub-Zero Wolf Appliances.
Hi, I'm Barbara Selig Brown. Welcome to Stress-Free Cooking. Today's show is going to be on Napa, California. I had a great time in Napa and I thought I'd share some of the wine and food with you. So I'm going to put on my bunny slippers, pour a great glass of California Zinfandel, and cook a great meal for you. I picked Zinfandel for this show because it's very juicy, very fruity, and really luscious. And so with the menu that I have planned with varying flavors, this will complement it very nicely. So let me get started. I had the privilege of dining on the Napa Wine Train. And the Napa Wine Train really is a train that you take a little tour of Napa on, and they serve white tablecloth meals. And the food was just fabulous. So I'm going to recreate it with a little bit of a stress-free cooking twist. And one of the dishes that we had was a great salad, a mixed green salad, and it had some glazed nuts on it. But I am going to make my own version of that. So we have some sugar. We're mixing with some walnut halves. This is about 2 cups of walnut halves, a 1/4 cup of sugar, a tablespoon of cinnamon, and a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And then I'm going to mix this up a little bit. I have an egg white that's been whisked till somewhat stiff peaks. This is going to bind this all together and help the spices cling to the nuts. So toss this. Then you put them on a parchment-lined baking sheet and pop them into a hot oven for about 15 minutes or so. Keep your eye on them. What happens is they go from looking really underdone to being really overdone. So you do have to keep your eye on them after about 10 or 12 minutes. Okay, just mix them really well so that the seasonings are blended and everything's covered with that egg white. And then into the parchment-lined baking sheet, spread them out in a single layer. And with the parchment, you don't need to have any oil or anything because the parchment creates a non-stick cooking surface. So even if they look like they're going to stick together, it's okay because once they come out of the oven and they're nice and crispy, you can break them apart. So let's pop these into the oven. We'll come back and we'll talk about the appetizer. We had a great appetizer on the train. Now you have to keep in mind that you're on a train, it's moving, and you're going through the hills of Napa. So they kept the wine glasses small and short-stemmed, which was really smart. And we also had a great appetizer. It was really an antipasto, but the bartender called it a party on a plate. And I just thought that was such a great expression. So some of the things that you could put on your party on a plate would be items that you could create yourself or things that you could buy in a really good specialty store. I have some black and green olives on my party on a plate. I have some marinated mushrooms, really simple to do. You saute the mushrooms, add some extra virgin olive oil, seasonings of your choice. I like garlic, salt and pepper, and then just let them marinate overnight. We have some hot cherry peppers that are stuffed with provolone and prosciutto, a great combination, and these you can buy anywhere nowadays. One of the other items that I put on this party on a plate was mozzarella di bufala, nice, soft, creamy, really rich mozzarella cheese made from buffalo milk. It has a little bit more gamey or sharp flavor than just regular mozzarella. I have a wine-soaked cheese on here. This is soaked in Lagrein wine, which is from the Alto Adige region, so it gives it a really nice flavor. Pepperoncini for some sort of sweet, hot flavor. And then a piece of Parmigiano Reggiano, the king of cheeses. So a fresh basil leaf, some fresh tomatoes, and you have a really nice guest list for your party on the plate. So enjoy. The main course that we enjoyed on the Napa Valley Wine Train was a filet mignon on a grilled baguette with some blue cheese. So I think what we're going to do is start with our baguette. So we're going to grill that by just brushing it with some extra virgin olive oil. And I have my grill pan heated. So we'll grill this very quickly. And then we'll season the filet mignons while this is grilling. Okay? So put this in your grill pan. I'm going to turn this up to high now. And we're just going to grill one side actually to make it crispy on one side to hold the cheese and the meat. And while that's grilling, I'm just going to give it a little help. While that's grilling, I'm going to season my filet mignon. Filet mignon is very tender. It's one of the lowest fat cuts of beef. I happen to love it because it cooks quickly. It's always delicious. It's really simple. It's really stress-free. So it works very well for a dinner party. Okay. I'm going to brush it with a little extra virgin olive oil. And then season it with some salt and pepper. When you salt your meat before you cook it, it actually brings out a lot of the flavors. If you try it both ways, salted and unsalted, you'll see a huge difference. Freshly ground pepper, turn it over, and then I'll wipe my hands off before I go back into the salt. And pepper. And this will be ready to go into the pan when the bread comes out. So let's take a peek. Let me grab a tongs. And let's take a peek at the bread and see how it's doing. It needs a little more minute. So we're going to help it along. We'll press down just a little bit so we get some nice grill marks in here. Well, it looks like our bread is just about done. So let's pull that off the grill pan. And you just want it toasty and nice and golden. Looks pretty. So now let's put the filet in. And since we've oiled one side, we'll get that nice sizzle. And we're just going to let this cook a couple of minutes on each side. Really simple, because adding the blue cheese is going to give us lots and lots of flavor. So we don't want flavors fighting against each other. It's all about balance. And that creamy, sharp blue cheese will give us a nice flavor accent without us adding too much to the meat. While we're cooking the filet, let's go on and work on our salad. Alrighty, let's take a look at the meat. I'm sure it's ready to be turned. So we'll give it a little turn, cook it another 3 or 4 minutes on that side. And I love to cook it long enough to get this nice crusty outside. So I have a bowl here of mixed greens. To go with that, I want to make a nice white wine vinegar, because the white wine vinegar will complement the nuts that I'm going to put on the salad. So some white wine vinegar in a bowl, pepper, salt, a few fresh basil leaves. Just tear them up and throw them in the salad dressing. And then start whisking and drizzle in some extra virgin olive oil. We want about a 1 to 2 ratio. And whisking your dressing always brings it together so nicely as opposed to shaking it. When you shake it, it doesn't stay together quite as long. Okay, so this looks good. And then always give it a taste. One finger's good. I think it needs just a touch more vinegar. If you taste as you go along, you won't get to the table and be disappointed. All right, so that's done. Let me go check on my nuts. I'll set my dressing aside and go check on my nuts. Alrighty, the nuts look great. So what we're going to do is just break them up. Now obviously these are many more nuts than I need for the salad. These will hold nicely in an airtight container. Let them cool off completely. Don't put them away while they're warm or they will get soft because the moisture from the heat will make them soggy when you put a lid on them. Okay. So these nuts are going to top my salad. Okay, looks great. Let me just make sure they're okay. Yummy. Okay, let's dress the salad. Re-whisk this. It looks fine, but always for good measure, I'll just re-whisk it. Pour some dressing on the salad. Not too much. You don't want to drown your salad in dressing. Oops, tongs. Always start with less dressing than you think you need. You can always go back and add more. Okay, that looks good. So we'll plate this. A nice big salad. Always a great complement to steak. And I'm not putting any cheese in my salad because I'm going to have cheese with my entree. Okay. And a few of those wonderful nuts on top. I always love to add crunch to a salad. So we have a mixed green salad with a white wine vinaigrette and spiced nuts. Enjoy your first course. I think our steak is done, so I'm just going to touch it. Yep, feels perfect. Okay, you want it to give a little bit. When you're testing meats for doneness, you can hold your hand out. If you feel here with a relaxed hand, that's rare. Close your thumb, medium, make a fist, well done. But with filet, we definitely don't want it any more than medium. So a piece of baguette on the plate. Some of our wonderful imported Italian gorgonzola on the baguette. And the heat from the meat will actually make this a little more runny. So now I'm going to take my steak out of the pan. I actually had turned the pan down so that the steak would rest a little bit. Resting is really important when you're cooking steak or really when you're cooking any protein. You want to let it rest so that all of the juices that are running around inside of that protein like crazy have a chance to rest and to go back into the tissue. I think of it a little bit like an aerobic workout cool down. You know, you've reached your target heart rate, you've worked out for 30 minutes or so, things are just going crazy. You need to cool down. You give yourself a 3-minute cool down. Everything goes back where it should be, slows down a little bit, and you feel much better after your workout. Same thing here. Your meat is going to look much better, it's going to taste much better, and all the juices are going to be in the meat and not on the cutting board. So I'm just going to give this a couple of slices, quick slices, so that I can spread it out on that bread. Let's turn this. Okay, this is going to go right on top, right on top of that gorgonzola baguette. And this is perfectly cooked. It's not perfectly plated, but it's perfectly cooked. Okay, you can see that nice medium rare. And we'll stick this here. And in a couple of minutes, that gorgonzola will be nice and runny. And I'm just going to garnish that with a little bit of fresh basil. Okay. And actually, something else that would be really nice on this plate would be a nice sliced tomato. So I'll grab a tomato.